Good afternoon. Welcome again to the 18th VA DOD Government IT Health Summit with DSI, the DSI Group. We're excited that you're here in this day of COVID and virtual reality and Zoom and Teams. We're hosting a little bit of a hybrid here in that we've got some of our speakers in person, some are doing Zoom, and for all of you all that have been here with us all morning, we appreciate you sticking with us. We hope you had a great lunch. It wasn't the pasta that normally knocks us all out here, John, as you remember. The pasta's deadly. We don't have to stand up and do our exercises here. We're going to go ahead and move forward. I want to remind everybody, if you could, click through the sponsors that are taking care and supporting this group. The DSI Group gives money back to Wounded Warrior, as you know. They're an amazing organization that truly takes the discussion to new levels and brings all of us together so that we can have a conversation that makes a difference for our veterans, our service members, our congressional teams, and how we move forward together. This afternoon we have a great lineup. We're starting with Captain, retired, USN, John Windom. John's been a great friend for many years. He was the lead for putting the Genesis program together along with Chris Miller over on the DOD side. He normally built weapon systems, and we were saying that it's a lot more fun at this point to build things that help people rather than building things that kill people. And he has been a driving force for the VA now in managing their electronic medical record modernization. So we are extremely excited to have him here. We're going to go ahead and have a fireside chat with John and talk about the things that are going on. If you have questions, please make sure you send them in to questions@dsigroup.org. They'll be sent up here to me, and we'll see if we can stump you with anything. I don't think there's anything we're going to be able to do that with. But John, tell us how you're doing with this COVID world and this whole new organization that you've got. How are things going over there for you at the VA?
Oh, Joe, thanks to you and DSI. I can tell you we never don't appreciate the opportunity to convey our message. Your questions will probably be direct as they typically are, but they'll always be fair. And so we appreciate that opportunity. You know as well as I do, if there's just something I'm not prepared to answer, I won't answer. But
absolutely,
I could tell you those are typically few and far between. I could tell you I'm not the smartest person on our team, but we've got people in our portfolio that are really smart at this. The challenges are have been further enhanced by the COVID environment. I would be remiss if I didn't say, thank you to the administration, to Congress, to my VA leadership, for just the continued support. In no way, shape, or form have we paused in our activities. We've refocused in areas. We had a non-intrusive posture for a while in entering VA medical centers and facilities and access to clinicians that are serving our front lines to help with this pandemic.
That has to be such a contrast to see that the folks that are in there are seeing patients in full battle gear and that we can't even go in to train them. It's what a contrast of touch and service there.
Yeah, things are opening up. Things are getting better, and it's a byproduct of the hard work. You see the news reports, the spikes that take place in various areas. I can tell you that, matter of fact, we're deploying now in Columbus. They are getting the Cerner scheduling solution. I've been to the facility. I've taken the Deputy Secretary up there with me so she could see it firsthand and engage. The enthusiasm is incredibly high.
Outstanding.
One thing about people, and I probably should call them patriots, the patriots that serve the veterans in these VA centers, is that they're resilient, they're flexible, they are ready to address and attack any problem that they encounter, and this is just one of those problem sets that we just happen to call a pandemic this time, that they are being incredibly responsive. So we've got access. We're adhering to the social distancing parameters in our training portfolios and in our engagements with, obviously, the staff. And so, we're impacted, but we're not stifled. We're not stymied. We're not stopped.
Right.
And that, again, you've seen it. You've been servicing the DOD and the government in your various capacities, whether it be in uniform or out, for many years. And it's amazing how people even get more responsive to when they are faced with the diversity or the adversity, if you will, that we're faced with now. And I've seen that firsthand. So I know we can get this done regardless of the environment. And when I say get this done, I mean the enterprise deployment of this electronic health record system. And what we have chosen not to do is focus on the things that inhibit us, but instead, what can we get done?
Right.
You know, that's the way I was trained in the military, and I can assure you the VA is really an extension of that thought process and just what can we get done?
Right.
I think Secretary Wilkie and the Deputy Secretary Pam Powers have been phenomenal in conveying that message and, more importantly, conveying that support,
Right.
Joe.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about is that the COVID experience and that inability to get into the sites themselves has created some new opportunities and some gaps for you. In that one of the things you looked for is how do people do better remote training? What are some ways that they could bring that capability in? And we're going to talk today. We actually have Karen Brazel and her team and Phil Christie are going to be here with us. You just saw them walk into the studio here. And we're going to be talking about how does industry help you fill some of those gaps? So as you're moving out, what have you seen as areas that you could use some help in, John?
Yeah, I can tell you. Let me just say, our team is not fully assembled yet. We always have openings for people who bring value to the portfolio, whether it's on the government side or the contractor side. I'm hiring people as we speak. You've seen my numbers in various testimonies. They have become a matter of public record. As a matter of fact, what we're trying to staff up to from a government perspective. And I can tell you the complexity of the VA enterprise is such that there are discoveries that we make where we say, hey, we need to fill a void that, in fact, allows us to address the issue. Look at where we've advanced in telehealth,
right,
just as it relates to the COVID impact. That the movement in the telehealth arena has been exponential because this COVID-19 pandemic has inspired that type of growth, maybe even sooner than we expected. I can tell you that the thing that keeps me awake are the social distancing parameters and the safety of our people. I can't emphasize that enough. I don't want to create a problem. We know we have a situation here created by the pandemic, and we've got to be vigilant in the way we craft our strategies to inject ourselves into these medical centers. And so we are. I know Phil Christie and Karen and I think, speak on the phone at least 15 times a day. So, but she has been phenomenal in her role leading the OEI.
Isn't it great having a good support team?
Oh my God,
amazing, right?
it is, partners. That's what I would call them, because it's going to take us all to accomplish this, and it's going to take all of the leadership experience that we have to galvanize and move this thing in the direction that it needs to go. But if you try to tie me down right now on what areas that I know we need good ideas and we need help, it'd be in how do we increase our virtualization footprint in the realm of training?
Okay.
Because the more often we can engage without actually being face-to-face or in the same room with the people that we are responsible for training or orienting on what we're doing, the better, the more safe of an environment we can create. In addition, that has value in potentially driving down cost. When you think about the number of people we have to travel, put on travel to go into a region, if we can do that remotely, and I think we're learning daily in the way we're managing our virtual footprint as part of this pandemic. And so when I see, the efficiencies that are gained in some arenas, don't get me wrong, Joe, I'm a whiteboard guy. So it will be even better when they create on team.
You got to be in there
Skype
together to be able to work on that.
Is this inherent whiteboard
That's right.
that I'd be in heaven. But there's just so many things, and there's things that we're not even thinking of. I got a note from someone that has, the infrared temperature taking capability where they literally, when you walk into the room, you can see the temperature of that person on a vignette. I mean, those are the type of things I'm telling you that we have the aperture for as we improve our methodologies to move out into the field. We're going to deploy this, and we're going to be successful in deploying it. But those type of tools would be beneficial and can really help us. I guess I continue to remind people, and I really want to know, Joe, I really want to know. So pick up the phone and call me. Cerner and Booz Allen both have website registrations, and it still should be active, even in this environment. It may have been slowed a little bit because of, obviously, touch points. Right. But please go online if you have ideas. And one thing I will always be, and I will tell you, my team is protective of small business ideas. Okay, if you've got a good idea, don't be afraid of telling one of them the good idea. take the appropriate measures to protect that idea.
Put an NDA in
and let
place
me
and
know.
get you
NDAs, I think, are fantastic tools when done the right way. And don't make NDAs a legal burden. Make it a protective feature. You know, I think when you start crafting 3, 4, 5-page NDAs, that's the wrong posture.
Right.
Okay, but a 1-page NDA that protects the ideas of what you're introducing in this forum, such that a company, you know, because I have to believe the concern would be that they would take that idea and that they would now present it as their own to whoever the customer may be. Well, to be honest with you, I don't even want to be doing business with somebody that does that.
Right.
So those are things I want to know.
Outstanding.
If you see that in any parts of my portfolio, I just can't emphasize that enough. Good ideas are prevalent everywhere. Small businesses have more of a reason to be efficient in the way they do business because their margins are so much smaller. Right. And so I don't want to stymie that path to helping us out in any stretch, in any way, shape, or form.
But I also want to emphasize for the audience that we had discussions earlier with Dr. Paul Lawrence, who is here, and we're going to talk with some of the senior executives on the procurement side, is in our discussions that we've had with John before, a lot of times the companies come in and it seems like Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer. I like money. I'd like to have more of it. You have it. I'd like to have some. I have no experience with it, but I'd like to have some. I have a company. I'd like to have business. I have no experience. I don't know what you do, but I'd like to have that business. That doesn't work. You really need people that have done the research, figured out what you need, understand your environment, have done a little bit of background check on what and see if it fits. And I think that's one of the things you've emphasized a lot of times is know my environment. When you come talk to me, have a good feel for what we're doing. So talk a little bit about that, John.
Hey, you know, Joe, I think it's just mutual respect. That's what it is. What we're doing is incredibly challenging and incredibly complex. And it's nice when someone comes in to meet with me or my staff that they know what we're trying to accomplish and they know the methodologies we're employing because they've read either the RFP, they have been tracking or following the evolution of our efforts. That immediately puts me at ease in a meeting when someone has taken the time to understand. They've talked to other people.
Correct.
Because you know, we all have very busy days where 24 hours in a day just doesn't seem like enough. So when you're given that half hour or that hour, you know, lay down what you understand about what we're doing and then show how you can inject or add value to either one or multiple areas.
As a teammate, right.
And I just think, and so that's a key premise right there. As a teammate, you know, when I served, you often took notice of the people who could follow well to say they're going to be a damn good leader.
That's right.
And everybody wants to be the leader in industry, but there's typically only one prime contractor. And the rest are, if you will, subcontractors. And they have to sometimes take, you know, for lack of a better word, a subordinate role to where you receive direction and you really are given help in prioritizing your efforts. You'll get your time to be the prime again.
Right.
But it really is that teaming spirit that is key to our overall success. And that goes from within the contractor community and also within the VA framework. And that's why, again, we really are building an incredible team at the VA that doesn't agree. So groupthink is not what I'm looking for.
Right.
I don't want people just to come in and agree with me to just do it. I want people to come in and challenge. I say healthy tension. You've heard me use that.
Absolutely.
When you have healthy tension in a program office and in an organization that is challenging each other to do what's right, that's a great environment for success. So
now
that's
I
how
understand that you've had great support from the administration. You've had great support from your congressional leaders. You guys have been pretty forward and transparent and giving the results and where you are. And I think you said that you've gotten some great support back. I'd like to kind of get a feel for how that team relationship is working as well, John.
Yeah, I mean, you know, often I served 30 plus years in the Navy, and this is probably the first time where, you know, funding is always a concern, but the stars are aligned where the people, the stakeholders, the decision makers, the people that drive success are aligned to fund this effort. That's a good feeling. So it really makes the challenging questions, the tough questions, the audits, the assessments, the inspections, a lot more bearable and palatable because guess what? These people are just trying to protect the interests of the taxpayer. They're trying to protect the integrity of the process. So my team doesn't view any of that as being intrusive, but more is that they are committed to getting this done the right way. And as such, they're going to hold us accountable, and we're postured to be held accountable and address their concerns. Because when I sit at a hearing or I'm in a staff briefing with the Hill, a White House update or whatever the case may be, it is always evident of the commitment that they want to succeed.
They want this to succeed.
They want this to succeed, and I think that's what I choose to dwell on in my thought processes, and not even, people are just committed to doing this. I've never seen in my entire procurement or acquisition program management career the alignment of stars to get this done. It's just the right time. I see it. Again, I can't express enough the support from the White House, the support from obviously congressional engagements. It's tough, but it's been very much fair, and it's been definitely very much supportive. So that's kind of how I would characterize that, Joe.
So one of the things, we talked a little bit about telehealth, and we talked about the transformation that's happened, the VA's leading during this COVID time. We talked about some virtual support for training. You've talked about rolling out in Columbus with the scheduling system. Now, the scheduling system is a precursor to the Cerner scheduling system. We originally tested an Epic system, found that it worked, and then we decided to accelerate something coming out of the EHRM program to put it there. We also talked about there's some programs that are working very well that have a lot of momentum in the VA, telehealth, for example, and other programs. How do you and your team make decisions as you're coming forward and you find something that's embedded across the VA that might be something that's in the Cerner package you bought? And how do you make those decisions as to which way to go? To stay with the legacy, push the new? How do you do that? That's got to be something that everybody asks you all the time.
Yeah, make sure you ask Karen Brazil that question as well, because she's at the point.
She actually said she can't talk about that.
She's at the point. She's at the point of helping manage that.
Right.
A lot of moving parts in the VA. A lot of moving parts. People are doing great work everywhere, and that alignment, that integration, really flows through her office, right? And so it doesn't preclude me from asking questions of VHA, of OINT, or other organizations that are evolving maybe a product line in some areas. That is a constant. This is an incredibly dynamic arena where you have to be constantly assessing what licenses OINT may be procuring in support of enterprise requirements that we won't get to for years, right? I mean, that's the part
they're trying
people
to
have
set
to understand.
that stage.
They're setting the stage, but understanding what maybe new integration or interface requirements may be required as a result of that decision, right, is important. But
you don't want to do something that goes against what you're trying to do. You don't want to set up something that's...
Well, I would offer you this. It goes back to that ROI. What's the return on the investment?
Right.
Because if we're not going to get to, say, a particular VA facility in Florida for 5 years, is there a return on the investment that necessitates that decision to be made? And it may not be aligned with the tools that we're implementing now. You hope that it would be, but maybe the ROI is only 3 years on that.
But it's necessary to take care of the veteran.
That's exactly right, because that's at the forefront. And I can tell you, in all of our discussions across VHA, OINT, OEHRM, OEI, the veteran is at the forefront of what is best for our veterans. And then we start coming down the logic chain on what makes sense. You and I were talking about Dr. Neil Evans. I've met very few smarter people in my life and more committed. He has filled a void as the firm interim director, and a person I believe you're going to be speaking to, where you can ask him some of the questions that revolve around how are we integrating the thoughts, because he's at the forefront, not only on what's going on within VA, but what's going on with DOD, because that integration piece, as you recall, is what spawned the DNF.
And you were
that has led
obviously
us in this
a part
direction.
of the DOD selection of what took place over there, again, with the great procurement that you did over there with Chris Miller and that whole team. Yeah,
I mean, it remains about the people. I remain honored to even be in a leadership role as part of this. Days is very frustrating, but I tell you, it's never not rewarding. It's always rewarding. And so I just can't emphasize enough is that when you go home at night, when you come out of this portfolio, you don't have to reflect on, did you accomplish something in this given day? sometimes the step is only 3 inches, but that 3 inches is more important than maybe 3 feet that someone may take in another arena.
Right.
And so the hard decisions that are being made with DOD, Dr. Neil Evans is in the middle. Of course, Dr. Laura Krupa, who, God, I love her like a sister. John Short is leading my technology side. These people are driving this. Look what we've done with the Joint Health Information Exchange.
Right.
Okay, and I don't know if that was going to be a topic of discussion, but that's a huge leap forward. Joe, because you've been watching and following and helping with that for at least the 7+ years
Right.
I've been involved on this medical side.
It's
and
actually
so,
come together, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely. We're JLV, now we're at JHIE, and more partners coming on all the time. That is the evolution. Right. And when you think about this COVID-19 environment that we're in, think about how beneficial it's going to be for people to continue to move from state to state as we will get a vaccine. We will have a vaccine. There is no doubt in my mind that's the resiliency and the expertise that our communities bring to bear here in the US of A. And so there's no doubt now, but we want to track who's been vaccinated. Right. We want to track who's been tested. All of these things will be benefited by a electronic health record platform that's interoperable between obviously what the VA does and what our community does in the realm of healthcare.
Mission.
That's exactly right.
In fact, Scott was telling us that I think there were 9,000 or some 9,000 people that are in the fourth mission in the VA right now, which is amazing that we've had that actually take place. In fact, Dr. Lawrence this morning said that the electronic health record, even from the VBA side, is going to be the driver, because as all the analytics come in, all the different systems that touch it, it's going to affect his world in the VBA. It's going to affect the world in cemeteries. It ties to everything. So how do you see these multiple platforms coming together of HR Smart, of the financial revamp, of the DIMLs or Valor or Logical? All these connect into your system, and you're kind of one of the drivers there. How do you see that coming together?
Yeah, Karen's going to get a lot of questions.
She's going to get a few. So she said I'm going to give only prepared remarks, but she brought Phil
Karen's
for all the tough questions here.
Phil,
so
you got some smart people.
He's sitting there. He's taking notes.
That's I guess I don't want it to sound cliche, but that's where Secretary Wilkie and Deputy Secretary Powers has really driven a thought process of integrated approaches to doing things.
Right.
And we are the executing arm, Karen, myself. And so things like integrated master schedules and things like, integrated product teams, we hold various sessions that the key players are brought into play just to stay abreast. It's an evolution. You don't become joint overnight. And reflect back on your military career.
Absolutely.
And how the struggles we had in becoming joint. But I can tell you the momentum is there, the impetus is there, the tools are there, right. And we are putting the mechanisms to solidify that. A lot of growth in the VA, a lot of great work being done in the VA. So it's just not an overnight solution, but I can tell you the movement is in that direction, and more importantly, the tools and the people are in place to facilitate that movement. So a long-winded way of answering your question is say we're working it hard. With the touch points are everything can't be a priority.
Right.
So you've got to prioritize. Otherwise, you've got 1,000 priorities. So we've got priorities that we're addressing first, and then that obviously that priority pool will grow, and we will be successful in that realm.
So John, as a lot of people are wondering out there, I'm sure, and if you have questions, send them to questions@dsigroup.org, and they will literally show up here. And if not, I'll make them up, and we'll be fine. But a lot of people are wondering, since March, when we kind of shut everything down and the world shifted, how are you doing on the deployment? I know you say you got the scheduling going out in Columbus. Kind of give everybody an update, kind of on where things are and how you're doing. And a lot of people, they read what they hear in the news, but let's hear it from the gentleman that's running it.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you asking that question, and I didn't even plant that question with you. I appreciate you asking that. You don't typically let me plant too many questions.
No, we don't plant questions. That'd be too easy.
First of all, I need to defeat any myth that we stopped. Absolutely not. The team has been working as hard as ever. Our access is what was limited, but that doesn't mean we can't repurpose, refocus on other areas. So I would offer to you that the technical piece, the interface piece, that challenge that I'm sure many of you have heard about, because VA has so many specialties that they deliver in support of our veterans. We can't give up that capability set as we deploy this EHR. So being able to interface or incorporate those capabilities into the core EHR solution are the two obvious choices, right, on how we would execute.
John Short's been telling us he's been knocking those things down just
He has been.
like dominoes.
I don't know if it's like dominoes, but they've been getting knocked
big,
down.
it's kind of like Stonehenge.
Okay, because as you know, there is a cooperative effort that has to take place between DOD and VA because we are in the same enclave. We are going to be on the same platform and promoting our interoperability objectives. So those things have a myriad of things that have to be solved. So maybe multiple streams of dominoes, but I think that what we've done is honed those efforts to where I feel very good about going to subsequent sites and discovering what their interface requirements are and being able to attack them in the appropriate way.
So the infrastructure will be consistent across the areas that lets you do that, and you've been able to do some of that work in the meantime.
I would say, you know, OINT is at the forefront of the infrastructure work. We have not hesitated in using their existing contracting vehicles. It would be foolish if I went off on a path of trying to get my own set of contracts to do all what they're doing already. Right. They are managing and running the network, and they're doing it successfully. So we've tried to leverage fully the TAC and the existing contract vehicles that are there, the existing relationships that are there, the existing understanding of the enterprise. You and I have talked about this in years past, that you can't inject or integrate into the as-is environment without understanding the as-is environment.
Absolutely.
And so having those companies that are still part of the infrastructure management and update process have been essential to our being able to move this. So I would be lying to you if I ever said the infrastructure would be this mirror across every medical center. No, because I don't think that would be a judicious use of taxpayer money. What we seek to do is go in there and understand the as-is environment and then what the optimal environment is to incorporate the new EHR. And so we apply. Clearly, there's some infrastructure elements that are various stages of readiness, right? So sending the right expertise in there to assess, and that expertise revolves around, you know, Cerner, OINT, OEHRM, the appropriate functionals. You can't lose sight of the functionals in any IT project because really these tools are being put forth to them to facilitate the work they must do. And so that relationship between VHA, OINT, OEHRM
critical to keep that together.
Absolutely critical.
And, you know,
and that's what we're working
You know, I was talking to Fernando Rivera down in the New Orleans VA, who's just a great leader, and we got a chance to work with him on a variety of different initiatives during this COVID response. But he talks about the fact that, you know, he led the Washington VA, and now he's down at one of your larger VAs down in New Orleans, but that all the local needs that are there, his main concern is we have to be heard as to what our local needs are and how they fit into that bigger picture. Are you finding that by doing the site visits, that's giving you that good visibility, that you're getting a chance to see those local nuances that are there and how you can adjust your fire in the middle of that?
Yeah, I think the site visits are key. Obviously, they are the groundwork, but the local engagements are prevalent, okay? I can tell you clinically and technically, there are local engagements because, again, these people, it's about user adoption. Right? It's about buy-in from the people who have to implement this. And so neglecting to hear or discuss with them the strategies and hear their opinions and their struggles.
Make it part of it's got to be part of their desire to play in this too.
Absolutely,
their idea.
Joe. It absolutely does. And I can tell you we have avenues in working with obviously Karen's other job that she leads on the contracting side to where we have obviously enterprise level influence that she and Phil Christie are able to inject to put additional prioritization on whatever may be transpired. Because again, it goes back to that integrated thought process, right? They have visibility on the entire integrated nature of the portfolio and more importantly, the overall objectives that we're trying to achieve, where people, at local levels may often not understand the full, it's part of our job to educate. And so that communication path is key. There are so many moving parts, Joe, that you look up from week to week and you wish you had emphasized more in this area, but you just got to keep learning and
plugging.
keep changing and adjusting as appropriate. So,
Well, I always find it funny that when, we've gone back and looked at Vista, which has been around for a long time, Vista and CHCS and Alta and CPRS, they were built on that InterSystems platform. And then we move forward and we find out that they pay parking tickets with Vista. They do financials through Vista. So there's a whole myriad of things that are done with the EHR that when we put in a new HR, is there a parking ticket component to Cerner? The answer is no. So how do you
won't be one.
And there, well, you never know. Travis said he may go into parking meters. There's a lot of money there. But how do you deal with that? Because those are things not really in EHRM. That's got to be discovered by someone else that, hey, what are we going to do with this thing that no longer is being done? How do you play with that?
Yeah, Joe, regardless of the complexities, this stuff kind of boils down to requirements and capabilities, right? In assessing what the as-is environment is, you got to look at what's being delivered today. So I would offer to you that Vista is more of an ERP than an EHR.
Good description.
Okay, and an EHR is a subset of that ERP or ERP that Vista, in fact, is. So sorting out what the ERP or non-EHR related functions are that we don't intend to levy upon Cerner, because keep in mind, interoperability with DOD. We're trying to be on similar, on the same solution set. So, but you don't just say we're not doing that and then don't find a capability deliverer for those systems.
Right.
So I view that still part of the realm of how we have to sort out what the ERP components are and what the EHR capabilities are, and then you allocate those requirements elsewhere. Now, Cerner may ultimately have to interface with some of these elements. I don't think parking tickets would be part of the core EHR solution, but that doesn't dismiss the fact that it may not have to interface with the EHR solution, just as maybe a point of reference on what vehicle a veteran may use. I don't know.
Right.
And so we are not dismissing any interface requirements, but what I would tell you is that the core EHR is going to be delivered by is going to be primarily focused on the medical or clinical requirements of a veteran or the capture of data of information to support that veteran.
Right.
Probably they don't want their parking tickets listed in their medical record, but who knows?
But what I actually liked is when you said, when you go home at night, you feel good about things. Well, the fact that you just have to walk from your kitchen back into your living room makes your going home at night a little easier now, right?
Well, I mean, I can tell you, we're back in the building.
Are you?
We came from the building, and we've been there in earnest. We moved into phase 2 Monday, and so we are adhering to the social distancing rules. We are following, obviously, VA and OPM guidelines associated with it, but we're bringing people back into work in a safe way. I can tell you, every discussion that we have, the starting point is safety. We will continue to assess. We will continue to ramp up as appropriate. We're doing it in a judicious way, but I can tell you, John Windom is going into work every day, and my team is growing around me, but we're doing it the right way. We have brought back probably 20% of our staff to start populating. Then we'll see what the footprint looks like. I can tell you that the prioritization of work is driving, who comes in
Best
first.
To be there or not.
And because there's just certain challenges that are alleviated by being there that we want to address sooner rather than later, but we'll continue to refine and assess. And again, I can't emphasize the dynamics of this environment. But yeah, we are back in the building. I think if you ask Karen, she's been in the building. I don't think she ever left.
I always wonder, they say only essential people and you're not needed. always leaves me a little bit concerned. So we had a question come in, and this is from Denny Porter. He says, do you have any insights that you can share regarding when SUT and EUT training will begin?
Is that end-user training
and
super user training? Is that, it depends. We've got schedules. Keep in mind that Columbus is getting the Cerner Millennium scheduling solution.
Right.
So that is a timetable that is shorter than a medical center that's getting the full solution capability set. And so I can tell you there's anywhere between, for a scheduling solution, we think it's approximately 10 to 11 weeks give or take. Obviously, it's always dependent upon user adoption.
Right.
And so I can tell you that training window has started. We characterize our courses as 100, 200, 300, 400 level, kind of like college.
Yep.
And so the 100 level, 200 level training has started.
I didn't go to a college. I went to the Naval Academy. I had no idea what that is.
And so it depends on what level of training, but the training is ongoing. When we walk into the facility, we start training.
Okay.
Okay, the super user training. So I can take that as a look up on exactly when Dr. Krupa is going to start the man grand staff super user training. But we believe we've got anywhere to a 14 to 16 week deployment schedule for that. Again, we've got to get back in, assess readiness. We've already started training, and so now we have to assess what the retention levels of what we've already trained on.
How well
so
did that
all
go?
of those things, exactly.
Yeah.
All of those things. People have been busy, even though we haven't been doing EHR deployments in the various medical centers. They've been doing hard frontline work in combating this pandemic. And so we've got to get in there, and we've got to assess how much they've retained from what we've already trained them on.
Right.
So I kind of like that, take that as it depends.
Right.
But we've got a 100 through 400 level curriculum for training. We hope that people have retained a lot. We've got some examinations that we're going to give them to assess that training, and then we're going to move forward. And we hope to be able to compress some of those timelines based on retention. But I can tell you, training starts upon entry,
Right.
and it just depends on the level.
And
that
you said
we're
for
at.
virtual training, that's actually an area that you're looking for.
Oh,
any interest,
absolutely,
so.
absolutely. Cerner went live virtually with a facility in Tennessee recently, and where they started that process face-to-face, shoulder-to-shoulder prior to the pandemic, and then they had to extract themselves, but they continued virtually, and they were able to go live, and it's a community hospital in Tennessee. I don't have the exact location, but that's a success story. There's been articles about that. Well, what Dr. Krupa has stimulated is a scientific look at training, not a knee-jerk reaction to virtual training, but a scientific look. Look at the enterprise, look at where successes lie across really similar areas of training in the field of medicine.
Do you feel like you have good ways to measure that outcome-wise? You said you're going to do some exams. Is that an area that could maybe use some, how do we evaluate whether the training was
I would think
successful?
that evaluation is, refinement of evaluation tools is always ripe for better ways to do it. I reflect back vividly on my DOD career with KPPs and SLRs,
Right. Yeah.
and you know how we used to always, we almost used to think that the numbers of KPPs or the number of SLRs meant better control, right?
Not necessarily.
And not necessarily. What
Right.
it did was drive up cost.
Right.
Okay, we knew that, and so we've got to be judicious about that. So I'm going to be counting on the clinicians, and in some cases the technicians, but more so the clinicians, on telling me what is the best gauge of whether retention is taking place at the level it is. So it really is, that's why these IOC sites are so important. We can call them pilots, because those pilots are going to influence how we deploy this thing across the enterprise and what metrics are valuable and which ones are not generating the type of data or analysis that we're looking for.
Right. So we have a lot of industry out there, and if people were here, I'd be going around and, clapping people on the shoulder and saying hi to Bob and Jim and Tom. This is kind of like playing an NFL game, as we said, without a crowd. You make a great catch, and it's like, hey, man, that was just great. And it's like, yeah, well, no one cared. They were eating lunch at the time, and no one even saw it. What would you want to say to our industry partners that are out there right now? So you got a chance to just tell them, hey, look, here's what I need. Here's what I don't need. Here's kind of the thoughts that I have. Just a few seconds of just your thoughts. John, you were always a good industry partner, and I've loved that about you, and I think you're always very fair, and you listen to people. And you've got a direction that you're going, there's no question, whether you're a CIO or head of acquisition. You can't let every bump make your car turn left or right. You got to set your course, but at the same time, we were talking, you said Bill Tinston, he's got a very strong opinion on things, but if you give him a better opinion, he's willing to shift and make that change. What would you want to say to industry that you have a forum to say, here's what I need from you? Not necessarily like I need more Java programmers or I need this. What's kind of a temperament of what you want from industry, whether the way they talk to you, the way they engage with you, what you don't need? You got a few seconds, just open forum there.
So let me make sure because Bill has been a great partner.
No, you said that very positively.
Let me make sure that in case Bill is watching this,
Bill
has been an absolutely phenomenal
Bill,
partner.
I want to tell you that. He said that in a high compliment way. He said that he is moving forward, but he is always open to a better way to do it, and he meant that in a very, very positive way as a great partner. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, so I guess what I would say to industry is, don't get frustrated. Don't get frustrated by me. Don't get frustrated by the team. The injection point where you may benefit us or help us may vary. And you have to stay abreast of what's going on because we've got multiple phases, multiple paths. We're at a very small element right now called our IOC sites.
Right.
This thing is going to open up nationwide.
But right now, you've got to hit that target that you're aiming at.
We got to hit the target because that keeps us viable. That keeps demonstrating successes can be achieved with the strategies we're deploying. Nobody ever can get the audience when they absolutely want it, but be ready when you do get the audience. I can tell you, if my people don't get a chance to see some of the industry folks that have requested, it's not because they're not busy. What you and I have talked about, and I need to look at, how I can allocate some time to hear from industry more so than I'm doing because I used to do it on DOD. I used to take Fridays.
Fridays with John. That was great.
And I used to really know if somebody wanted to talk to me.
I used to bring folks in all the time to talk with you.
They would come see me on Friday.
Right.
Because everybody wants to see you Monday through Thursday, but on Friday, if they really want to come in when the day is a little lighter, then they showed up on Friday, and I'm telling you, I had some great engagements. So I've had to come up with a mechanism to see more people, even in this very stressful environment, or at least talk to people virtually in this stressful environment. So I owe you that.
And at the same time, before you leave that, one of the things that's been really great that if you were at an industry day a while back for EHRM, you indicated 3 different levels of how to engage. One is that if you're talking to us about how the government engages this, you really go through Booz Allen because they're your PM and your partner. If you're going to the Cerner deployment, you kind of talk to Cerner. And if you're going into the others, it's John Short or Dr. Laura. But when you say not just time with John, but come in with an idea, come in informed, don't ask what keeps me awake at night or where's the contract. So explain a little bit about what you'd be looking for when people come in and talk to you.
Yeah, I really do want, this dartboard approach where you're just throwing darts at what you may be able to do, that's too tough to manage. But when you understand our CLIN structure, when you understand the training elements, when you have experience or at least access to people who have done things in a value-added way with demonstrated metrics that support that, that type of understanding is a great way to start, okay? And then that opens my aperture immediately, and then I literally start understanding where you could fit in or where you could add value. You're going to have to pick a team. You're either going to be on the government side or you're going to be on the Cerner contractor side.
Right.
I mean, that ought to be the first thing you decide is, am I going to be on the VA side? No, I don't want anybody to take that the wrong way. We're all partners in our overall success.
Right.
But clearly, it's a conflict of interest if you try to serve both sides that are in fact there.
You can't govern what you actually create. That's a little bit, you can't pitch and catch it at the same time.
So Booz is our principal support contractor that we bring additional subcontractors through to support, obviously, value add. While Cerner is our prime contractor to deliver the EHR and the related services. So those are the 2 major sides, right, of the fence. And then I guess we, OEHRM, are the fence, okay? So we also have a requirement that we've got to oversee this thing, right? And I tell people, and I don't mean any insult to English majors, my mom was an English major, is that I can't use English majors to grade physics homework.
Right.
Okay, so if I'm doing physics, I got to have physicists on my team to grade the results of the physicists that may be on the Booz team or on the Cerner team.
You just need more Navy nukes.
Well,
just need some submariners. Come on now.
So that's the way I would look at it, is just see, first of all, what side of the fence, what your value add proposition is, what your understanding, demonstrate your understanding of what we're trying to do, and then what you legitimately bring to the table, okay? If I say I need something and it's not what you do, then don't say that's not what I do,
Right.
or just don't be afraid to say that's not what I do. However, this is what I do. I know the limitations of companies because this is what I've been doing. You don't have everything, okay? But that's why partnerships, joint ventures, relationships, and all those things are valuable as well, so you can diversify your portfolio and what you can support.
Right, and don't say you do something if you don't. 'Cause
That's exactly right.
That really is a
That
bad
is, there's nothing worse than that. And so, but you know, Joe, that's kind of where I would stand on
That's
that.
perfect.
We've got room, for value add. This is a project that is going to be something that we're dealing with for many years to come. We hope to be gaining efficiencies each and every year, each and every month, really, if not every day. So how you can help with those efficiencies, you bringing something like that to
Right.
bear, I can tell you, we'll have our ears perked up.
That's perfect. John, we are just about at time. Any last alibi thoughts that you have, sir, before we move on?
You know, Joe, I would just say, you know, this is a tough environment we're in now with the pandemic, and I just, you know, please stay safe. I hope that those listening in are staying safe. We're going to make it through this. We're going to be better for it, if you will. Our resiliency of the American public and the population and those that service our veterans is phenomenal. I'm seeing that day in and day out, and it's just kind of, it remains a pleasure to be part of this, and we'll continue to strive, man, and thanks for your support.
John, you're always a great person to have here. We appreciate your service, both in the Navy, and we've got a heavy Navy contingent here today. So for Phil and all the Army guys, there's been nobody from the Air Force here. I just want you to know you are highly underrepresented, but you're probably out there playing some golf and working at hotels, having a great time. But thank you for the conversation. We had slides that we didn't want to kill you with PowerPoint. I love the fireside chats, John. It gives us just a great chance to get to know you better and also to let people know what you need.
And the slides are accurate. It's a good takeaway, but I appreciate the way you orchestrated this because I got to say some things that probably wouldn't have said as part of a slide presentation, but that's a good takeaway for you either wallpaper your
Absolutely.
bathroom with or talk about later. So
I'll put it on the boat. That'll be
Okay,
right there.
all right.
Thanks, John,
Thanks,
very
man.
much.
Thank you.
All right.